When you think about the cities of the former USSR and Warsaw Pact, what comes to mind? Odds are you think about Hrushevka, Panohaz, you think about public transit, places like the Moscow Metro, or the metro in Kiev, or Minsk, or Tbilisi, places that are regional capitals and were meant to be showcases to the rest of the region. What's interesting to me is that the three Baltic states of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, while they have a variety of buses and trams and suburban railways, no capital city of that region has a underground metro system. One did try, Riga, and today I'm going to tell you that story. From 1940 to 1991, Latvia was under a Soviet occupation, with the 1940s seeing a forced deportation of over 300,000 Latvians to other parts of the Soviet Union. The ultimate result of these forced deportations is that the demographics of Latvia changed to a degree where Russian became a majority language in public life, especially in metropolitan areas like Riga. Down in the description below, you'll find a video from a Latvian YouTuber that discusses the language policy in more depth. What you must understand for today's piece is that over the course of about 20 years, Riga became not only a Russian majority city, the city was also becoming an industrial hub, not just for heavy machinery, but many different types of industry. There were many carpentry factories employing blind and visually impaired people in Strasmuzha. I made a video about that community a while ago. Over the course of about 20 years, from 1965 to 1985, the city went from about 600,000 people to over 880,000. Why was this metro proposed in the first place? By the 1970s, it was becoming clear to officials at all levels of the SSR that Riga would reach 1 million people. It was just a matter of when, not if. With such a rise in population expected over the next several decades, planners had to get creative on how they would solve the inevitable traffic congestion problem that would take over the city. It was decided that some form of mass transit would need to be introduced. City officials in the planning department coalesced around two ideas. Either A, they would build up the old railway system and build a kind of intra-urban railway network, or B, they would build a high-speed tram system to navigate the city. This latter option would have been unique to Riga. No such system, to my knowledge, has been built. For all intents and purposes, high-speed tram could just be a reference to sticking a sports car engine into a Tatra tram. Who knows? While these two proposals may have been seen as inefficient by various city bureaucrats and officials sent from Moscow to review the proposal, they would have definitely preserved the character that Riga is known for. During the time of the Soviet Union, where many cities, like Chelyabinsk, were full of commie blocks, Riga had the most western-facing architecture in the Soviet Union, with the possible exception of St. Petersburg. This architectural heritage was ignored. To give credit where it is due, the Soviet Union did build metro systems of substantially good quality, not just in Moscow, but indeed across the Union. This was a policy that really bore fruit. If a city had over 1 million people, typically they would have a metro system, in addition to other forms of mass rapid transit. And so you get pretty good at building metro systems pretty quickly. I don't think it's using too much poetic license to suggest that for Soviet engineers and architects, bringing public transport like a metro system or even a handful of bus stations was more than just setting up a part of a transit network. It was an act of providing a manifestation of propaganda and messaging from the state to the local population. I mean, look at these murals and the bus stations. This isn't just something that happened in Moscow or the other major cities of European Russia. With that architectural sidebar out of the way, let's take a look at what should have happened if everything in Riga went perfectly. From 1975 to 78, planners in the city would have worked out the broad strokes of the technical and economic limitations and implications of this project. How do you get the metro system under the Daugava and above it? How do you connect various stations to others so that every track is as level as it can be? How do you make sure that when you are building all of these stations, the people are not heavily disrupted in their daily lives? How do you make sure that the Daugava doesn't suddenly flood the metro system because it wasn't built deep enough underground? All of these technical questions, and probably more, would have to be discussed. From 1978 to 1981, these general design ideas would have to be fleshed out in such a way that a construction crew could get to work. Construction crews would then have 9 years to build 8 stations for the first line of a 2-line system. Life does not always go as we plan. Rather than taking the expected 3 years to complete the initial draft phase, the design team based in Riga took 5, with 1980 seeing the release of their first proposal. Due to various geological constraints and technical problems, the design team was unable to produce a resulting design document in 4 years. Towards the end of 1984, the project was handed over to a Leningrad-based institute that had more experience dealing with the kind of geological issues facing Riga. The expected opening date was pushed back from 1990 to 1997. 1985 saw the addition of one more line to the planned network. 1985 also saw the ascent of Mikhail Gorbachev to the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. This will become important later. From the perspective of Soviet planners at the time, the Riga Metro changed from a purely traffic alleviation project to a project with the added benefit of providing VIP tourists a quick and easy way to get to their dacha on the northeastern side of Riga. When asked for extensions, the Riga Metro team were provided them at every opportunity by Moscow. There was no hesitation, from what I can read. Protesting anywhere in the Soviet Union was not an easy thing to do, both for your career and your person. While Mikhail Gorbachev had talked for many years of being more open, the realities of those policies people did not understand. It was not clear how far you could actually go. I mean, he's not about to make the Soviet Union into some Western capitalist free speech society, is he? So Latvians who were concerned about the metro project were protesting in a way that made it seem more like they were concerned about the environmental impacts of the project as a whole, rather than its mere existence and imposition from Moscow. A year prior, a protest in Latvia's second largest city, Daugavpils, saw the complete canceling of a hydroelectric project. For protesters in Riga, no doubt this Daugavpils hydroelectric plant being closed was a big inspiration. It showed that you could get results if you framed arguments in the quote-unquote correct and proper way, so that you wouldn't be labeled a counter-revolutionary. While no doubt this was a highly debated issue in Riga and hotly protested, the protests were not, in my opinion, the final nail in the coffin. The project could only be stopped if the money stopped flowing, and in 1991, it did. The Soviet Union fell apart in December of 91, and Riga became the capital of an independent Latvia. Over 30 years have passed now since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and Riga now has a fairly substantial tram network and 3 bridges across the Daugava, rather than just one. I think it's fair to say that by the late 1980s, this project took on a life of its own as more of a statement than a functionally designed piece of transit infrastructure. It would be more of an ideological showpiece that the Soviet Union in the late 1980s still had that spark to get things done. If Riga even had one metro line completed by the late 1990s, and the Soviet Union still collapsed, with the ensuing population outflows, I'm not sure whether the system could have sustained itself. I'm genuinely curious what happened to these stations after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Did they just fill them in with dirt? I couldn't imagine all that steel and concrete and that architectural artistry going to waste. What could they have done with it? I would be interested to find out if anyone has any information. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. In the description of this video, you will find 2 links to articles that I used for the research of this piece from DeepBaltic, a Baltic-focused news/culture publication. I really hope you enjoyed today's piece. It was a lot of fun to research, and I hope to make more like it in the future. If you want to support what I do here at Uniquely Unseen, please subscribe, hit the bell notification button, and share this video around to somebody you think might find it interesting. I appreciate all the support I get for this project, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for taking the time.